What's the most honest version of yourself? Is it at work? Is it at home? Is it online? Or maybe it's the one behind the wheel. When and where nobody knows your name. Quick question. Have you ever lost your temper at someone on the road? Even though, you'd never speak that way face to face to them. Ask yourself that. And if so, then this episode is all about you. And I call it Road Rage Nation. Welcome back to The Way I See It. I'm your host, Michael Baumler. I think it's episode 7. Most of us think we're decent people. At least I do. We're polite, reasonable, respectful. And then we get behind the wheel. Or at least some people do. Suddenly, other drivers aren't people, they're obstacles. And speed limits, well, they feel flexible. And courtesy, it feels optional. If someone cuts us off, then it's personal. Someone drives slow, then they're incompetent. Someone honks, well, they're out of line, even when we may have been the problem. And here's what fascinates me about driving. It's the one place where, entitlement shows up in a very raw state. There's no filters, no reputation, no real accountability to protect. Just this quiet little assumption that, hey, I'm in a hurry. I'm more important. So I matter more than you right now. A little chip on the shoulder. So maybe it isn't really about road rage. Perhaps it's more about, what happens when, let's say, anonymity meets impatience. Well, and responsibility slips out the back door. Because this is how we treat strangers. This is how we treat them when no one's watching. And if you think about it, what does that say about who we really are? It's really where the mask comes off. I think driving strips away our public persona. There's no small talk, no smiling, and certainly no need to explain yourself. You don't have to justify your mood. You don't have to justify your rush or your reaction. And that freedom is revealing. That calm, reasonable person that everybody knows. Well, they exist. They exist until they're delayed. And this matters. Driving doesn't change who we are. It removes it removes the social brakes that usually keep us in check. Yeah, that's a good way to say it. Let that sink in for a second. Or, we can call it entitlement disguised as urgency. This is where we all recognize ourselves. And we can justify everything. I'm late, They should move out of the way or drive faster. Or, I'm just checking my phone for a second as the guy behind us honks his horn because we've delayed him a second and a half. But here's the uncomfortable part. Everyone else has an excuse too. The real issue isn't speed or traffic. It's probably more like hierarchy. On the road, we subconsciously rank ourselves higher than everybody else. Some of us, we think my time matters more, my lane matters more. My mistakes, if I've made any, deserves understanding and yours doesn't. You're an idiot. That, it's entitlement. Aggression is just what it looks like when entitlement gets challenged. And anonymity gives us permission. Cars are our emotional armor. You know, tinted windows, locked doors, no names, no faces. You can do what you want. You can yell, gesture, cut off, flip the bird, you know, and then disappear. And we've all seen this before. You know, online, people say things they'd never say face to face. And on the road, people do things they'd never do in person. You know, and here's the line that matters. Anonymity, well, it doesn't create bad behavior. It gives it permission. Take away the consequences, you know, and our character gets exposed. Pressure isn't an excuse. You know, it's just personal. It's just culture. You know, we're all overscheduled. We're all overstimulated. Everybody's in a constant hurry, or they're already running late when they leave the house. Every delay feels personal. Every inconvenience feels like an insult. But there's a truth that we all avoid. Pressure doesn't excuse behavior. It reveals priorities. You know, so ask yourself this. When did being busy become a license to be inconsiderate? Leave 10 minutes early. Leave an hour early. We live in a world that rewards urgency, not courtesy. And the road is where the mindset plays out in real time. You know, perhaps we should label it, I don't know, how about the broken social contract? Driving only works if we cooperate. You know, every intersection, well, it's a trust exercise, or four-way stops. Every merge ramp or exit ramp requires mutual respect. And yet, the moment courtesy costs us something, whether it's a few seconds or a position in the line, you know, it costs us a little pride maybe, we abandon it. That's the pattern. Responsibility is something we support right up until it inconveniences us. You know, so here's the question. If we only follow rules when they're easy, do we actually believe in those rules? Yeah, it's deep, but think about it. You know, road rage isn't really about anger. I think it's more what happens when expectations are high, patience is low, and accountability is absent. It's entitlement colliding with reality. And if courtesy disappears the moment, you know, no one's watching, was it ever real to begin with? I don't know. At least that's the way I see it. Yeah. So if I hit a nerve, well, that's good. That means it mattered. If you caught yourself in it, you know, well, even better. So do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, you know, especially if you've seen this on the road, and maybe even subscribe if you want. More conversations, you know, that don't talk down to you, but, you know, don't let you off the hook either. Because those aren't just driving issues. Nothing I talk about are really other issues than human ones. Yeah. I'm Michael Baumler. I'm out.